One. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 25th consecutive Collective Intelligence Block Party. Woo! And I am delighted and honored to introduce our hosts for this next segment, A World Beyond Money, our Brett Minster Full of It, aka Brett Warshawski, and Marina. So great to see you both. Take it away, Brett and Marina. Welcome back.
Good evening, Mr. Jamin, and all of my friends and family at the block party. It's always good to be with all of you and fun to be here, and I'm very pleased. Marina, say hello, and let's get your last name into the mix. Can you pronounce your last name for Jamin? Yeah.
Mine is actually so long. That's why I didn't even put it over there on the count. Because mine is Marina Onoprichuk. So it's pretty long. But okay, Brett Minster Full of It, also pretty long.
That's right.
I actually changed. I was thinking of what surname to choose. And then I was laughing with my friend and I changed it to Nakamoto in LinkedIn. So Marina, it kind of sounds good, Marina Nakamoto. I don't know why, but yeah, but probably now people think it's I'm, blockchain scammer.
Right on.
Or maybe I'm his daughter. Who knows? No one knows. Yeah, hello everyone. We happy to see you again at Jamin. It already, now is 25th of Block Party.
20 what? Sorry?
25th of Block Party is today, right?
Yeah, this is the 25th consecutive weekly block party.
Whoa. That's been a journey. What do we want to talk today? Brett Minster Full of It.
Let's see. I think we've got mostly familiar faces here, and maybe a couple of people that I haven't met yet. So I'm going to do a very, very brief context or introduction, and then we're going to jump into some conversation and exploration. So Marina and I are co-creating and incubating and exploring something called World Beyond Money, which is an alternate reality game. And Jamie's here. She's also been co-creating and incubating some with us. And really the whole group here has been part of that journey. So I call these sessions co-create-a-thons. So for me, we're in the midst of a co-create-a-thon, and co-create-a-thons are cool because they never end. And once they start, they're perpetual energy devices, and they just keep iterating along the path of realizing whatever it is we want to realize. So this is a co-create-a-thon for the alternate reality game called World Beyond Money. And there's a few different ways we sometimes go about these sessions. There's a creative exercise I created once where we all take about 20 minutes at some point. We try to create some artistry of whatever our passions are. We all create something and we all hang out together. So maybe we'll do that, maybe we won't. The last couple of weeks we've mostly spent in just conversation and inquiry and exploration together. I think I'm feeling that again this week. And as a little bit of context, an alternate reality game is really an interactive network narrative. It's often associated with transmedia, so using different internet technologies and portals, whether emails or websites or social media, across all of those different media, so transmedia. And an alternate reality game is sort of like a simulation of another reality. It's a storytelling device, and it's quite often been used for marketing and product placement and things of that nature. It's also fair to say we've probably been playing alternate reality games since time began. It's probably fair to say the church plays an alternate reality game, governments play alternate reality games, and the good guys and the bad guys, and we're all playing alternate reality games. So, but they're more famously known the last 10 or 20 years for marketing products and movies and artists a lot, musicians and artists. In 2007, there was an alternate reality game called World Without Oil, which I discovered 6 months ago, a video documenting that experiment, and I was super, super inspired by that. We sometimes show the 7-minute video documenting that during the other process I have. I don't know if we'll do that today either. But they did a wonderful job 13 years ago. Dare I say the internet was even almost in a little bit of an infancy, even in 2007, all things considered, compared to where it's at now. And it was quite successful and quite inspirational to me. And it was one of the first instantiations of an alternate reality game serving a higher purpose. The designer of that game, named Ken, who I spoke to, called it a serious game. And it was really for, humanitarian purposes, for collective intelligence, really, to be honest. I mean, that's how he described it. It was a game of collective intelligence, a collective insight, collective wisdom. And that's some history of why I'm even using the word alternate reality game, because it's fun, because it gives us some freedom to dream, to play. And in a world without oil in 2007, people basically were acting as if oil had hit its peak and it was about to disappear. And what happened was people got so into the game and playing that role and pretending and taking part that they started making videos and leaving emails and creating websites acting as if oil was going away. They were creating like fake news broadcasts. People were actually riding their bikes to work in response to a world without oil. Some people started growing food in their front yard. So it was more than a simulation, really. It was a simulation, but it was actually creating social activities. It was creating social activism as well as creating, let's say, only websites or only emails, or pretending that we were going to have a world without oil. So that super inspired me. And when I think about a world beyond money and all the projects I've been part of about co-creation and regenerative and sustainable practices and all these different kinds of innovation, whether feeding people or solar radiation management or permaculture or new types of governance or cryptocurrencies, these are all amazing innovations out there that a lot of us already recognize as being solutions and paths towards something like a world beyond money. So Marina and I have an intention to actually officially launch this alternate reality game in December of 2020. I have no idea what that looks like yet or how it happens, if it happens, so to say, on that date. So right now we're experimenting, we're playing, we're doing research, we're getting people's opinions and ideas and learning, and also enjoying the ride, because the conversation itself, the inquiry itself of what does a world beyond money look like? What does it feel like? What's in the way of it? Why don't we have it already? All these things are very interesting topics, and they affect a lot, really all parts of our lives, our emotions, our wounding, our healing, feeding people, our religions, our politics. Obviously, money is a sort of unifying, ubiquitous thing in the world. There's not many parts of the world that don't have money or don't use money to some degree. So with that, I want to thank everyone for coming today. I want to thank you for listening to this opening monologue. I just wanted to share some context for anyone listening out there, or some who might be joining us who are unfamiliar. And for those who have heard this before, thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it. So the first thing we do in this session is we go around in a circle for those who feel like chiming in, and we just simply ask, what does a world beyond money mean to you? You don't have to supply any other context. You don't have to talk about alternate reality games if you don't want to. It's just more of a free association. Jamin usually has a good metaphor for us. We've had Lake May, and we've had Monopoly in the past. I'm curious if he'll be able to come up with another metaphorical allegory. Is there anyone out there who would like to share what a world beyond money means to them? And you can type in the chat or raise your hand or pop in. Ray says a gift economy. Melvin, go ahead. You're on mute, Melvin.
Freedom and dignity.
Freedom and dignity. Beautiful. That's the first time I think anyone's used the word dignity in any of these answers. That's beautiful. Thank you.
I'm going to be jumping in and out because I got to do work also, but I'll be listening. Thank you. I really like what you're doing.
Right on. Thank you, Melvin. Thank you for hanging around. Enjoy your work. Christopher has typed into the chat.
I could say something.
A world where, okay, go ahead, so.
Okay, I think greed will be eradicated because if there's no scarcity, which I think money would get rid of scarcity a lot, because you know warehouses full of clothes and food are destroyed in order to hold the profit motive in place. So I think, you know, people would be quite slim. I think that, you know, greed would be eradicated because if everything's in large supply, you suddenly don't want it. It really affects your desires. So if tomorrow you could go into your favorite shop and have anything you wanted, probably that desire would go, and you wouldn't want to go. You wouldn't want anything.
Thank you. So yes, brings up a lot of interesting questions about desire itself and needs and wants themselves and value itself. I'm just going to read what Christopher wrote here in the chat. He wrote, a world where our anxieties about, quote, losing the concept of money are addressed. Parenthesis, for example, how do we navigate people's fears that losing the concept of money will cause the loss of the protection of fair distribution of resources, or any other benefits that money provides, real or imagined, like people's fears about others not being motivated to work without money. That fear would be addressed and resolved. So yes, another essential element to this conversation definitely revolves around fears that people have on all sides, especially the what will happen, how could we possibly have a world beyond money, which has come up in my Facebook thread a couple of times when I was sharing a picture. So we'll definitely get into some of that. That's a great conversation to have. Is there anyone else who would like to share what a world beyond money means to them? Jamie?
I'm looking at the concept of stewardship in place of ownership. So before we get to 2025, there will be some of us who will have money that we own and we give it away, but it's the stewards of the land. It's be the steward of this farm. If your talent is to do farming, if your talent is to do art, let me give, if I'm a famous actor or a singer, or I'm a totally rich person in terms of money, it's a spiritual philanthropy. And I think we're seeing a lot of it with what's happening now with the real movie stars. Spiritual philanthropy as a, this is my land, I will give it as, and you be the steward. You be the talent that you are, and let us all do what brings us joy. And if you're great with people, or you're great with a garden, or you're great with taking care of this land to bring these people to this place where they can be artists, where they can be themselves. I don't know, it's really just a concept of stewardship in place of ownership. So we are stewards of what we're best at doing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, another pillar type of subject of stewardship compared to ownership. Melvin, did you want to go again, please?
I would like to add living in abundance. That's what a world without money, another thing would be to me, freedom, living in abundance, and with dignity. And I really like what Jamie said, the stewardship, where you could just give your talents, your gifts to the world, and you know that you have a roof over your head and some food to eat.
Thank you, Melvin. Is there anyone else who would like to share what a world beyond money means to them?
Summer Rose has her hand up, and then I've got to share. Go ahead, Summer Rose.
All right, I'm driving, so I had to really be crafty with my driving. Luckily I have someone helping me push all my buttons. The benefits of button pushers in our lives, and we love them. So yeah, I've studied a bit about Jack Fresco's resource-based economy, which totally segues into what we're talking about here, about being stewards of the land and owners of the land. And I kind of feel like the most gracious way, and that's what I feel like we need to do, we need to like create a gracious path towards no money, or there's going to be crash and burn, and people are going to starve and die. And I mean, that's probably going to happen. That's already happening as we speak. Anyway, so unfortunately, I guess we're already there and always have been. But I feel like all we need to do, one good thing to do is just like collectively pool all of our money together, like today. Let's say we pull all of the money that we have right now and we buy land and water. Without land and water, we now have all the food we want and all the homes that we want, because we have land and water, which is what we need for food and for resources to grow, to build our, build the stuff that we need. I mean, grow the stuff that we need to build our houses, because all of our houses could be, grown basically. So I really just feel like the best way and the easiest way to segue into a world without money is for us to spend all the money we have right now and buy up all the resources of the world and then collectively share those resources. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Summer. Appreciate it. Lots more juicy stuff. I was just in a conversation with Marina and a guy named Matt who's writing a book, which I'll talk about, called Moneyless Society, and we were talking about the Venus Project a little bit, some of the positives and negatives possibly of why they haven't materialized more there, actually. Jamin, did you want to share?
Love to. Thank you so much. Love the conversation and everyone's sharing. So I'm just going to add one facet, which is, so if you could imagine, where food, where there's simply no money associated with food, and then, housing and healthcare and all these other segments. So I'll start with just describing food a little bit and what that could really look like. I'll start out, as we've been exploring this, how do we feed everyone for free? And we don't charge them, and we do it driven by donations. How can we make it as efficient as possible? Turns out we can get a 40-ton truckload of lentils, right, at the source for 6.5 cents per pound, dry lentils. Cook it up, and that multiplies into several pounds. Brett, here's a bowl of hot, nutritious lentils. Cost 1 penny. Literally, this is no joke. So as we do this very efficiently and turn truckloads of food into truckloads of stew and deliver it to everyone, suddenly everyone's fed extremely efficiently. We've taken money out of food. And when you go to like some picnic or somebody's birthday and they just give you food, they're not charging you money, for heaven's sake. You feel so much gratitude, and there's so much connection and happiness and joy. That can be our daily bread. We can all just be feeling gratitude and participating, right? Anyway, that's just for food. And then now expend that to every other facet of life. Life can be this wonderful party, camping trip, right? Communal affair. So Brett, God bless you, and Marina and everyone, Jamie, all your community for pioneering this. And let's really make it happen. Thanks, everybody.
I would like to, this is what I'd like to do. I would like to take over the means of distribution, literally take it over like a revolution. Out of the way, we're over, we're on it. And it's the Amazon infrastructure, which delivers anything all over the world to anybody. It's a fantastic infrastructure. So we take it over like in the revolution. We take over the means of distribution as opposed to the means of production, which Karl Marx talked about. And then we distribute the free food. I like infrastructures. I like using existing infrastructures. I think it's elegant. I think that these people have created something really good. but it's what it's being used for is the problem. I see their structures as skeletons. They're just bones. They're dead people, and they've been making these skeletons. And but these skeletons, we need those skeletons. Those skeletons are the infrastructure.
Thank you. So, Christopher, you had your hand up? No? Okay. Oh, that maybe there was just an applause. Summer.
All right, back again. Yeah, so I'm thinking about this idea, like I know we're wanting to feed the world and everything, and if we're actually feeding the world great food, healthy food, there actually won't be a need for healthcare down the line, because one of the biggest ailments of why we're unhealthy is because of the food that we're putting in our bodies. And if we take care of the land and the water, and it's healthy and clean, and then that's what we're putting in our bodies, then there you go. And in the same vein, food that we grow is also energy. So food and just having control, literally, I mean, if I've shared a graphic in the past, and it's like 65% of our livable land mass is being used by cattle. It's absolutely appalling. And there's only like maybe about 5% left of natural wildlife, and then like the other 35% is where humans live on the planet. So we've destroyed so much of our life on the planet, natural life, that the food situation is just so huge, and going to a plant-based diet is so huge in terms of sustainability. And again, you know, we get energy from that stuff. So we can have it all. We can have food, we can have homes, we can have energy, we can have clothing, we can have healthcare, all just by, you know, having holistic food agreements and sharing that food with everyone. Because I feel if we just eliminate hungry people in the world, if we can eliminate that, the creative potential of the human species would just explode. And I feel like just feeding people would probably bring our planet to a place of world peace and homeostasis. So that's my 2 more cents.
I've been thinking about what Summer Rose said. It can be quite a grim prospect to think of, you know, living in a small house with the land and digging the cabbages every day. It's quite a transition, that. I mean, if you've always been on that page, and if you love gardening, that's quite easy. But I was thinking about, you know, all our leisure pursuits and entertainments. So I want to propose this. What if the entertainment was sex? And what if it wasn't sex as we know it, but it was a kind of incredibly imaginative eroticism that would be almost like imagination on bodies? And so we'd be endlessly entertained, probably with just monogamously even, you know, just that it would be so spectacular that you would, and it would give you the encouragement to go out and dig the cabbages.
Look, kind of like what we're doing here. This is kind of like really safe, really respectful group, intellectual, spiritual orgy.
Jamie, did you have something? You're on mute, Jamie.
Just want to comment on Yamin and the stew and the soup, and we can deliver it, we can bring it to the people. But it just brings me back to the point of, if we cannot teach them how to fish, and can we not put the gardening tools in their own communities and keeping it local? So some people will not be the ones to make the stew, but we have to make it local, and we really need to teach the people how to fish. And we really need to bring the resources to the people, the water, the food. Forget the exporting in countries, keeping it local. feed the people, forget exporting your local resources. I really think about teaching the people how to fish. And I love the idea of delivering to people who will not fish, but teach the people in the community close by how to fish instead of giving them the fish. So this is just something I thought I could put in there.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Jamie, did you want to go?
Oh, I just wanted to give a response to Jamie, because really it's not either or. And I really see the food delivery as a bridge to where you want to get to, because there are people starving now, right? In, drought-stricken areas. You can give them all the fishing poles and fishing line you want. They're not going to get fish out of hot, dry sand. So we've got to feed everyone now, and also heal the climate. We need to cool the planet. We're going to have a lot of climate refugees who simply can't produce food where they are because of climate. But as we cool the planet and help people get situated in areas where they can grow food and help them grow it, great. I'm all for that. Let's transition to that. But in the meantime, let's not let people starve. That's all I'm saying. Just wanted to.
No, I totally love it. I just always get ahead of myself because I'm always about the end game, and I always feel like it's already done. I always know that it's already done, and then you can get into something that's crazy as free energy, where everyone would have water and everyone would have electricity. And we know that these patents are available. The military is aware of them. Free energy is available. So this is getting into a little bit further, but my dream is pretty big. But I do understand the steps to get there, but sometimes I get ahead of myself. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought I just heard you say you do understand the sex to get there, because I must be still stuck on So's comment.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yes,
boy.
She said,
nobody's really been stuck on the sex. But what I'm saying is, just you've got to sex up back to the land. Back to the land can be horribly grim. It can be waiting for the rain. It can be having to trudge out, and dig and all this. How else are you going to sex it up unless you have the most amazing, and I'm not talking sex as we know it, I'm talking about like wild eroticism, like it's like patterns, it's red, it's like throwing stuff, it's doing crazy things with bodies, and it's like painting in sex. That's what it's really like. It's like painting and a kind of living poetry. But the sex word's a bit of a problem, really, because I'm talking about eroticism, and it would sex up this grim transition, which really needs a kind of mystical. It needs something mystical, and it has to be sex.
A mystical makeover. Yes. We need to sex up the transition. I couldn't agree with you more. Summer Rose.
Hey, yeah. Back. I was thinking the end, and maybe one of you can answer this. I'm kind of feel like again around not eating food or knowing where their next meal is. I'm wondering if once we feed everybody, that they'll be, they'll calm down. Their systems will calm down. They'll be in more, state of appreciation and harmony and cohesiveness, that their vibrational frequency will be more at peace. And I wonder if that alone will cool the planet. Because anxiety, I think, is a hotter energy, and peace and acceptance and harmony is a cooler frequency. Might that be true? Or at least a little bit? Jamin, to you on that one, or anyone. I know that's Jamin's big thing, is cooling the planet. If that was ever considered.
I think the word cool, we use it, don't we? It's an adjective we use to say something's really good. So coolness is obviously a good thing, and I think that is a really interesting thing you've put out there, Summer Rose.
Cool. Yeah, kind of came up in this conversation, actually. Of course, we will learn the solutions as we continue to talk. So, Thanks for being here always.
Thank you. I mean, what comes up for me in that possibility and that metaphor, Summer, is my wife and I were talking recently, and she's gotten really into Chinese medicine the last couple of years. So that in Chinese medicine, obviously they use yin and yang, hot and cold, and the body's homeostasis, you know, as above, so below. And my wife often says, isn't it interesting that we're experiencing this overheating from above, as far as, you know, physics, when the planetary organism, from a Chinese medicine perspective, the culture, our whole organism, our whole social body of us, are displaying a lot of I think what it's called yang, like yin deficiency. So we're over yang, we're over hot. We're over hot in a lot of different ways, actually, Summer, too. Not like the way we do things, the way we have stress around a lot of different spaces. I'm not an expert in it, but it definitely, like, your question metaphor is super interesting. So I'm kind of like a yes and to that. And then from like a Ken Wilber kind of 4-quadrant perspective, like there's overheating from a physics perspective, like a systemic, like nature, outer, you know, the sun and the atmosphere. But then there is the component of psychological heat and spiritual heat that certainly is part of the equation and certainly can't be helping. So if we rectified all that in a homeostasis sort of Chinese medicine solution spiritual way, of course, I would imagine our whole culture would cool down and bring a lot of balance to our systems collectively and fractally. I guess we'd probably still need to address the nature quadrant part of it, but certainly it's a super interesting question that has a lot of merit and interest to it from a holistic perspective, like you're saying. Absolutely, it's a fun conversation, really, because it brings it all together, like, and they must be connected, and they must be connected from the metaphysicals, yeah, from the metaphysicals perspective. Absolutely. Did you want to relate to that at all, Summer? Or?
Yeah, I mean, talking about like what you're saying with Chinese holistic medicine and all that too. Like they even say, I guess, in not to be eating garlic and not to be eating onions because it kind of heats up our bodies, and our bodies don't need that extra heat. So with you bringing in Chinese medicines and understanding frequency, and I think we're onto something. and maybe it's true, you know, like you're saying, it's heating from above. And I know that, you know, there's the Global Cohesive Initiative and Global Cohesive Project that talks about how Earth and HeartMath talks about Earth's energetic systems are intimately connected to the human consciousness. So if that's the case, you know, and the term hot-headed, you know, and all that, angry and yada yada, I feel like this is, you know, just even anger is a hot energy, and just being cool. Hey man, be cool. I guess maybe we all have to learn how to be cooler. So I agree. It's all as above, so below. It's all connected. You know, we have to be the change ourselves we want to see in the world. There's only one of us here, so if I'm, you know, spewing heat, then my planet's going to be hot. If I'm cool and chill, then my planet will be cool and chill. And I guess that's all. But we all need to learn and start embodying if we really think that we're part of the solution. I love Jamie. Jamie's so special. She's the change agent right there. The beaming light and love and peace and harmony.
Namaste, girlfriend.
In the cash, sweet thing.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, so much juiciness in the concept of a world beyond money. And
I think now Jamin should start singing the song, and the Jamie should keep it up. You remember, guys, as we did last time, the karaoke round? Jamie has a very beautiful voice, and Jamin is always himself. So maybe we can touch on this like hotness of the planet and how we should cool down ourselves. Nothing coming to your mind, Jamin, to start jamming a bit?
Well, I realized quickly when I knew I should that we gotta feed everyone without no quid. And then I said, let's cool it down. Because if you think of how it all can go down, we get the unity stew and we share it around, and then we say, hey, wait a second. What's going on?
What's going on? What's going on? And we take a big look and we step outside and we say vibrationally, we got the vibe and we're screaming at the top of our lungs, what's going on? And I say, world beyond money, world beyond. I say, yeah, what's going on? Everybody together.
Hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah. I said, hey.
World
beyond money. You know, it's
to make a change, and it's happening now with us. World beyond money, 24/7 block party. Vibrationally bringing the frequency back to the middle of the earth and bringing it back to our hearts and shining it forth. We got a dream. It's a world without beyond money. It's everything we got. What's going on? And I said,
hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah. Fred said, hey.
Time to make a change.
Who's cooling now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so sweet for someone to say we should do the karaoke again. This is so much fun.
I told ya.
You're the best.
We definitely need a karaoke night. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. Like Tuesday nights have to be karaoke night or Wednesday night or something. We have to do it.
Totally. Because that brings the art and the heart chakra and just all this into it and just sharing.
All those vibes.
Yeah.
A drum circle.
Oh, I want to go to drums. Hey, I got drums, guys.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The conversation definitely needs a drum circle music room where people are just always playing instruments and jamming. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
It's a spirit drum.
Yeah, the so beautiful sound of the spirit drum. Thank you for I can't talk anymore. Thank you for performance, Jamie.
Thank you for letting me be myself. I love you guys. You're my tribe.
We love you.
Right on.
Well, I'd like to add that, you know, the song "What's Going On," it's like, wait a second, it's like someone waking up into reality and saying, this is just absolutely crazy. What the hell is going on? And that's really our present reality. It's just that no little kid in the crowd has yet pointed at the naked emperor and said, hey, whoa, homeboy's got no clothes. Well, we're doing it now. But it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to expose the nakedness of the ugliness and the violence and the ominous side of our present modality and death spiral. And what better way to expose it than to feed everyone plant-based foods at literally a cost of, you know, in the low pennies, say 5 cents per pound of cooked, nutritious stew. And getting back to what Jamie was saying earlier about, hey, you know, the goal should be food self-sufficiency and all that, people should be growing their own. I totally agree, totally agree. And just as this big logistical operation of feeding everyone can be a bridge to that, ironically, money can be a bridge to a world beyond money, right? So just as food interdependence can be a bridge to food independence, money can be a bridge to a world beyond money. How? We were working on with the concept of donut economics, where this entrepreneur in San Francisco found that if she puts out boxes of donuts in a little tip jar and then just walks away, comes back at the end of the day, all the donuts are gone and there's some money in the tip jar. The money in the tip jar exceeded the cost of the donuts. She made a business based on that principle, donut economics. If we apply the same thing to universal stew, we'll be serving up portions of stew at a net cost to us of maybe 6 or 7 cents per pound, and just feeding everyone. So with very little money. And when people see the efficiency and the power in that, they will donate, donate, donate. And it could literally be profitable. Well, of course, we'd use the profits to expand, right? No individual will touch a penny of those profits, and expand, expand, expand. Once we're feeding everyone and the donut economics is working, everyone will say, why the hell didn't we do this before? Everyone's getting fed and it's profitable, right? Because we do it at a scale and in a way that makes sense. And then we start doing the same thing for housing, clothing, and solar radiation management. All of this constitutes a new form of governance, right? Here we are, a non-governmental entity creating a new form of governance. Feeding everyone, cooling the planet, ensuring that we can grow food ongoingly, stopping the mass consumption of and slaughter of meat and its myriad impacts on the environment, oceans, etc. This is a new form of governance. This is taking care of people and the planet is what it's all about. And imagine we simply obsolete these central governments based on violence and fiat currencies and all that. Anyway, couldn't be more excited. Going on mute.
Jamie? Did you? Oh, she's just saying yes, or?
Can I say something?
No, I just do this because when Jamin talks, he does the jazz hands. I was just giving him the jazz hands.
Okay. That was your jazz hands. Go ahead, So.
I just wrote something in the chat because I'm thinking on the hoof, okay? So I've just written that I propose, and now I think this is really important for this, the whole thing is the back to the land thing I've already explained. If it isn't sexed up, it's going to be grim. It's going to be so grim and horrible. Right, so I propose an ecolution in eroticism, not orgy, not polyamorism, as in those small fit-for-purpose hamlets that we have to create. We could not sustain the potential conflict. Imagine eroticism could be monogamous, like in the physical sense, but you could also have eroticism on the imaginary level with your neighbors. So you could have it's like playing it out in your imagination, a shared imagination. It could be done in writing. So you could, it wouldn't be unfaithful because you wouldn't be physically touching. And then I put that it could be like, it would be like an evolved eroticism would be like painting, a symphony, a beautiful garden, a song, but most of all, it would be poetry. It would be poetry of our bodies and in our intimate, for our intimacy. But then I asked the question, because I noticed that I don't have any takers for this. It's like I don't really have any takers for this idea. So I'm asking the question, are we erotically repressed, do you think? I know that there is a real shortage of erotic, mystical poetry being written. A lot of our current poetry is rather brutal, and it lacks the realm of the beautiful. Eroticism is in the realm of the beautiful. Sex as we know it, in the realm of capitalism, is a dreadful, substandard thing with sick sexual power relations dominating that realm.
Well, I think for me, it's pretty straightforward in terms of the imbalance of our civilization. I mean, we're dominated by what people call the masculine or patriarchy or the yang energy again. So, of course, there's a lot of repression of the wild, of sexuality, of eroticism, and for me, capitalism is an example of hyper masculine. It's an example of imbalance, personally. So my answer to your question is just a simple yes. Yes, eroticism, sexuality is, on the whole, deeply repressed and minimized and demonized, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm sure others could probably put it more elegantly.
Well, in the worst case, it's monetized, right? That's the absolute, I would posit that's the worst case of it, when it's actually monetized.
I just love, like, what you said about the eroticism and the sexuality also being imaginary, because in many cases it doesn't have to be physical, which I've realized in my own experience as of late. Recently divorced and having found my sovereignty and living in my own home for the first time, making my own decisions. But not necessarily wanting to have a physical partner, but this eroticism, this divine love. And I will hold up this book, Rumi. You know, this is the poetry, I think, that you are speaking of, my angel, to speak to me. I don't know why this is happening, but it is an imaginary field we can experience beyond the physical. So when you talk about sexuality and eroticism for life, for love, it is a direct metaphor for what we're doing here right now with the world without money, because it is also imaginary, but we're feeling it, we're living it, we're believing it. And so thank you.
As an example, please don't be embarrassed, but as an example, if you had someone you loved and you were not near them, and you said to them in words, I am going to kiss you all over your body, and I am going to leave small red bruises on every part of you. And it will look like you are covered in roses.
I think you are Rumi. I mean, this is beautiful. This is so beautiful. This is so beautiful what you just said. So beautiful. Oh my God. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to build on what Jamie mentioned about, you know, that we're experiencing this. I'm gonna mute you, Summer Rose. We are experiencing it right here, right now, actually in a very real way. I want to go back to this book written in the early 2000s by a former colleague of mine, Robert Scoble, who some of you may recognize the name. He was one of the first very, very famous tech bloggers. And he and Shel Israel wrote a book called Naked Conversations, all about blogging. And it was extensively researched, and it was actually a product of collective intelligence because the community was congregating around their blog. They kind of co-wrote it with them. And among the research, it was revealed that when people get together and collaborate, right, with positive emotions, and we're just collaborating and co-creating something, the same, you know, receptors get fired as when we're making love, right? Because what are we fundamentally doing? We're coming together, pun intended, right? We're coming together and we're co-creating. We're co-creating something that didn't exist before and could not exist without us, right? You know, I could go to the bathroom and do, you know, what I learned to do at age 14, but that's just me by myself, right? When we come together and we co-create, there's just this constant flowing back and forth, right? And the physical is, for me, irrelevant. I'm as happy as I can be, right? And, you know, to quote Tom Petty, make it last all night. I mean, this literally lasts all night, the block party, right? And so it's like, it's like the best of all worlds, and it's lasts all night. What more could you ask for? All right, going on mute.
I'll just say that. Go ahead.
I'm like, I have to apologize. I think you all got a taste of my road rage before. Hopefully you guys all muted me before you heard all that.
Well, the thing is that I think there's a sexual undertone to that, and that's fine. So it's quite appropriate. No, I'm just kidding. I don't recall hearing any road rage. So I think you're great. Go ahead.
Woohoo! Okay, and I'll say about the ecstasy and it's all sex. It's all, you know, me breathing in and out. I'm making love to the air, you know, and when the wind touches my, you know, on my arm, whatever, it just feels like I'm being loved, you know, and the sun kisses me with its sun rays. It's just like total ecstasy. When I eat the best food on the planet, oh my God, I moan like crazy. My dad says it's totally rude, and other people think it's totally rude if I don't. So it's really fun. So, yeah, I think it's all love to the world or not making love, and whether or not we're in love with the world or not in love with the world. And sometimes you power, and it's not going to be as pretty as it could be. And sometimes the world is a little, you know, dirty, so to speak, but we still got to love it up anyway. Yeah.
I'm going to make love with the crows right now by feeding them. So you can see in the background.
Please always mute me because I'm driving and it's really hard for me to be pushing buttons.
I'll mute you and just keep asking. Safety first. I'm going to mute you right now. I'm also going to mute myself. Wait, I'm trying to mute you, but I can't mute you, Summer Rose. I don't know why, but anyway, I'm going to mute myself.
I got it.
Okay, thanks, Fred. And I'm going to make love with the crows by feeding them and singing them a Spanish love song. But I'll be listening in on my earbuds at the same time.
Cool. So thank you, everyone, for the awesome conversation. Christopher, I just want to thank you for participating in the chat, man. I'm reading all of your comments. I'm sure most people are able to read them. Welcome to Peter. I think you might have tuned in. And maybe Danny tuned in. Thank you for coming in. If you are, and Phelan, maybe you can say hi. If I'm not pronouncing your name right, I apologize.
Fallon.
Thanks
Fallon.
for Fallon. Thank you for tuning in. We're just in the middle of having a little bit of a discussion and exploration around a world beyond money. So, Fallon, I'm sorry. Yeah.
How's it going? How's it going?
You want to share something? Want to tune in a little, share something, or?
Oh, no. Actually, I was in the last segment, and
Okay.
I'm just listening in while I'm doing some work for this segment right here. But I'm enjoying everything that I'm hearing.
Word. No problem. Thank you. All right. Well, I think I'm going to ask everyone a question on the topic of World Beyond Money that I'm curious about how you would all answer. So I put a post out on Facebook with a graphic or something, and I got what did I put up? I put up a post. I had written my own version of what a reporter might be saying outside of a stadium, like several years from now, when we were just about to transition to a world beyond money, and there's all these big celebrations going on. So I wrote this mock, news report where the guy is reporting back, wow, it's been 5 years since COVID, and despite all of everything, we're now approaching this monumental moment. The world's transitioning, and I'm here at Madison Square Garden, and the musicians are warming up for the big party that's happening around the planet. And somebody wrote back saying, I'm an entrepreneur, and I can't get my head around, like, who's going to clean up the stadium, after the concert? Who's going to do the vending, at the concert? And I thought about that because it's quite a common question and a common inquiry, which we've all touched upon. People always ask, who's going to take the garbage out, right? Is the famous one. Who's going to pave the roads if we have a world beyond money? So my initial inclination when he said that, I thought was like, well, put on your imagination cap. Speaking of imagination here, and eroticism and imagination, I was like, we're on the precipice of super, like, fantastic technologies on this planet. Now, whether they're in service to humanity or they go out of control is a whole nother story. But the fact is, there are fantastic technologies available. There are repressed technologies available, as someone alluded to. And there are people, like, in this conversation working on technologies that are in service to humanity. So I was like, I want to know what you guys would say with your imagination cap. I was clearly like this. I was like, that's not even a question for me. Like, if everything's biodegradable in a world beyond money, and we're eating differently, and we have robotics, and we have nanotechnology, and we have AI, and we have spiritual technology and emotional technology, I was like, clearly, like, Madison Square Garden could get cleaned out and disinfected, let's say, in 5 minutes, like, with some kind of robots and, like, I don't know, nanotechnology. Like, instead of people serving hot dogs and beer and having to hire people for $10 an hour, we would have, like, robots and, like, all the beer you can drink. So just fill up your biodegradable cup, and when you leave the stadium, you toss it in the street, and basically it disintegrates in 5 minutes. Like, that's my answer to who's going to clean up Madison Square Garden and who's going to do the vending. How about we bring your own food? How about there's, a food forest growing in Manhattan, and as you're going to the concert, you just grab some food on the way. So there's a million answers to that, but I was just curious if someone want to have fun, like, future projecting, like, what would you say to someone when they say, how are we going to clean the venue up afterwards? Who's going to do the vending? Go ahead, Jamin.
Well, first of all, please tell him that your friend Jamin Shively will do the vending, except the price will be $0.00 per unit of hot, nutritious stew, cool green smoothie, or hot bread. And I will do it. And then, and in exchange for the privilege of doing it, I'll clean up afterwards, and there'll be a whole bunch of volunteers. We'll be singing as we do it. Jamie, maybe you and I can kind of lead the singing as we're picking up. You can sing. I'll pick up the garbage anyway. And then at the end, we'll have a big party and a feast, and it'll just be so fun because, what a privilege to be able to serve food to people and that they get to experience this delicious plant-based stew. People are going to say, this is all plant-based. I had no idea it could be this delicious. Anyway, thank you.
Wonderful. That's another point. People can't quite grasp the idea of not having the pressures that they're used to, I think, from the dis-ease, I would say, of capitalism. I know a lot of people in the chat were like, oh, there's nothing wrong with capitalism. And I'm not really into wrong or right, so to say, but I brought up the analogy, there's the famous saying, guns don't kill people, people with guns kill people. So I applied that to capitalism for fun, thinking like, okay, capitalism doesn't kill people or create inequality. People with capitalism create inequality or kill people. And I was like, to a certain degree, I can resonate with that. Like potentially I could resonate with that. And then I was still like, but I gotta say, I said to the person in the thread, I have to say, I still feel like there's something about capitalism and the free market that is systemically not appropriate for the coming age. It actually has a systemic flaw, which doesn't make it wrong or bad, again, because people are so sensitive, because they're entrepreneurs and because they believe in the free market. They're so identified with that they feel like I'm wronging them and blaming them. And I really wanted to be clear with him, like, it's an evolutionary step. Like capitalism to some degrees, entrepreneurialism has provided a lot of abundance under some circumstances for some people. Like, I don't really need to argue that or discount that in order to say I think there's something better. So it's quite interesting to me how people defend the system as it is because of their attachments or because that's all they know. And their imagination kind of just goes out the window based on the fears and the constriction. I even think I was going to say restriction, but it's more like this constriction, like this choking. I mean, the eroticism thing. It's like this repression of being able to even imagine, Jamin, that like maybe you would have served people at that concert for a couple hours that week, and then somebody else would have paved the roads for a couple hours. I mean, I don't even think that's necessary with the technologies that are coming. But even if it were, is that so unimaginable or so undesirable to like a few hours a week for each of us to like kind of do something in exchange for like the other 6.5 days of pure abundance and pure prosperity and pure co-creation? So there's a lot of solutions anyway, which is why I asked the question. There's a lot of answers to that, to me, the fear-based question, really. I don't mean to be picking on any specific people or like, and I understand where the question's coming from, and I still don't feel like I have a super elegant and eloquent way of addressing it. In my heart, I feel like I know what I want to say, but it's not always an easy conversation. Peter, go ahead. See your hand up. And
actually,
then Danny after that.
Danny had her hand up first, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. And Peter, welcome. Sorry for the confusion.
Okay, we'll go with Danny first.
Danny, we're
not hearing you.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all. Got a microphone issue. I mean, like, we cannot hear anything. Yeah, it's either connected or disconnected or half connected or something like that. But anyway, why don't we?
Is that better?
Much better? Much better.
Yeah.
Now we can hear you. Now we can hear you.
Okay, so I wanted to know, in your worldview, where in a sharing economy, the function of or the model of cooperatives going forward fit in. Thanks.
For me personally, I'm not an expert in the actual model of cooperatives. In my biased sense, the project I'm part of and the group of people I've been sort of in research and design with, we talk about, co-creation and the flow of resources, as Jamin started this whole conversation with, like, rather than transacting, there's just a flow of resources that meet people's needs, et cetera, et cetera. Cooperatives, see, when I think of cooperatives, I think of legal entities and like the cooperative movement of everyone having a vote and all of that. And it's just not my slice of tea. I think it's a good model, and it's providing slice of tea. I said cup of tea, slice of cake, slice of pie, slice of tea. It's not my slice of tea, apparently. So I don't really have a really great answer to that, Danny, because I'm not so familiar with the actual models. Of course, I'm a fan of cooperation and co-creation and contributionism and sharing. That's for sure. And we have our own sort of model of distribution and sharing and things like that. But yeah, I'm not the best person to answer that.
So you're saying it's not a model that you find, or it's not your perception of, or even you might not even be an advocate of that going forward as an operating structure in society, in business, etc. Am I right on that?
As a futurist, I feel like cooperatives are a stepping stone and helpful and valid, like social entrepreneurial was a huge stepping stone to me than just being an entrepreneur. The triple bottom line is better than what came before it. So for me, yeah, cooperatives are like evolutionarily effective and positive, but as a futurist, I think they're going to get surpassed with new models and all transcended and included, which is my favorite term. So whatever's really great about cooperatives and what's really great about even proprietary, what's really great about this, whatever's really great about all these things, they get transcended and included into a new cutting edge system or organizational method. So yeah, the answer to your question is yes, Danny. Like, I don't think it's like the best cutting edge thing I've seen, but I certainly appreciate how it's working now. Like, as Jamin say, people are starving. When you feed people, that matters more than any kind of system you can think of that's going to work 100 years from now. So cooperatives also have that beautiful thing that they are working now to some degree. They're providing really good answers in many different ways. But for me, they're not a futuristic, like what the future is going to bring. That was long-winded. I apologize, everyone.
Yep, that's good.
Okay, Peter, did you want to check in? Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, I really liked your question before. Who cleans up? And what I experienced as you gave your answer was that was just too far of a jump. And it feels like, for myself, and I suspect for most people, is that you've got to take small steps for them to follow, right? So as capitalism unravels, if you will, and as we create this new shared way of being without money, that to some degree, what you said, people bring their own food. There's food there already. It's a built-in potluck. These kinds of things are easier, already known steps. You mentioned something about robots doing it and whatnot that felt like too big of a step. I mean, it's there and you can do it. You can say that afterwards, right? So using already existing or just slightly futuristic steps to dare to feel into that. So who cleans up? I love Jamin saying, once given the pleasure of serving you free food, I would happily clean up in exchange. I thought that was beautiful, right? It's like that kind of loving presence that says, you give me the right to the honor of feeding you, I would be happy to clean up, right? And then your biodegradable thing is just 2 steps too far. It feels like but it's close, right? So it's like everyone brings their own bowl and cup everywhere they go. It's easy, right? And then the next step is we have biodegradable ones that we all put into a big something as we leave, and it turns into mulch to grow the food for the next event. So that's just kind of what moved through me there. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Peter. I'm so glad when people can fill in my gaps. because I totally respect and appreciate that answer and Jamin's answer. They're answers that are in my heart, but they're not mine to give, so to say, or my role to play. I'm sort of this future. I mean, it doesn't mean I can't change, but I'm this futurist at heart. And so, to some degree, it's like I must be this like futurist at heart or something, or this such a believer in the impossible, whatever that is, even though I'm well-rounded and just as much as you guys understand technology too. But it's so lovely that you guys, that together we have all the answers. Like the three answers are so much more sufficient than any one of those answers. So that's what I was looking for, to have that panoply of answers of really, there was a lot of diversity even in just those three replies. And I couldn't agree with you more, Peter. I mean, honestly, like, Jamin, your response was totally righteous and possible and realistic and the most next level technology that could exist, which is the consciousness to have that response, which is far more advanced than artificial intelligence or robotics. So I agree with Peter on that case. Thank you, Peter, as well, for pointing that out.
And if I can jump in, I raised my hand. I just want to tell the following story of how we get there and can be totally without money forevermore. We start with food. That's the most basic thing. Housing, clothing, healthcare, those are all easier than the daily supplying of fresh food that can go moldy and all that and has seasons and all that. That's the biggie. Solve the biggie, the rest are easy. Once we've solved them all, everyone has their needs met. And so the guy with the chainsaw trying to cut down the last mahogany tree no longer has the excuse, well, I got to do this to feed my family, boy. Right? Actually, no, you don't. The food truck feeds your family. So put down the chainsaw. Can we all put down our chainsaws and machetes and stop slaughtering animals, et cetera, et cetera? You see, what's going to happen then is, well, then people can say, well, what's there left to do, right? Let me tell you the story of John Crapper, right? So brought up the example of modern sewage in London, probably the first city in the world to have modern sewage. Prior to that, they were throwing it out the window and it was landing on people's heads and the streets stank and everything else. They co-created modern sewage. And the guy who invented the toilet was literally named John Crapper. So the toilet is called the John, right? And when you sit down, you take so the opportunity is to have toilets named after you, metaphorically, right? To solve the next problem. What's the next problem? Well, there's trash in the stadiums, right? And so whether it's a Jamin Shively with a social solution, hey, let's feed everyone and then in exchange we'll clean up and sing songs and have a party and everyone will be happy and everyone will, in a different form of get laid, right? Because it's just such a happy experience to feed everyone. Oh my goodness, how orgiastic can you get? We fed 50,000 people in Barcelona. How fun, right? And they're all thankful and and it's just fun for everyone. And then and then there's just this long waiting list to get in to be able to do those volunteer jobs. So that's a social solution, or whether it's a technological solution like John Crapper's toilet and modern sewage. And so people are going to it's going to be like a new race to come up with amazing solutions. And the bar is now set, right? Between modern sewage, modern water, food on tap, healthcare for everyone, the bar is now, bar just gets constantly raised. So no one would even think of chopping down the last mahogany tree to make some furniture to get some tokens. What the hell are you going to do with those tokens? Your needs are already met. You just become the dude who chopped down the last mahogany tree. Anyway, I've made my point, and thank you.
J-Man, there was this thing I saw online. There was a guy making the furniture, and basically he was training the trees. They could stay growing, but he was training the trees to make the chairs by pushing them slightly to go into certain shapes. So these trees still had their roots in the ground, and it was like really a nice
Oh, do we lose So, or were you finished?
So you're on mute.
Yeah, I did finish, but I just thought you could maybe check it out. But I'm a bit of a toilet nerd, Jamin, as the best of us are. Right, there was I just got a little thing. I made a pamphlet about toilets. I sold at the Labour Party, and it was at the Labour Party conference. And there's a guy called George Jennings. No, I'm not going to read it out because I've got the wrong bit. But it was something about Crapper. It was actually the engineer of Thomas Crapper and Co. Thomas Crapper is not the inventor of the toilet, as we all thought, but he did make a significant contribution to England's plumbing history. So yeah, because as part of this pamphlet, I had to look up a lot. I became very understanding about toilets. It went down well, I must tell you, at the Labour Party conference. Everybody wanted a toilet pamphlet.
Well, I should hope it went down well. That's kind of the point. And that's a good metaphor.
I'm just going. Go ahead, Jamie.
It's a good metaphor. We need for things to go down well.
And also the engineering, the plumbing, it's just so important because it's so essential to our sustainability. There's an interesting paper, I haven't read it myself, but an academic paper that came from quite a highfalutin academic, and it's called the Toilet Papers. And it goes into, it's absolutely crazy, our plumbing system and all this paper and all this stuff going down, and people working in sewers having to deal with fatbergs, and it's just, all this could be humanure, could be sustainable. We could have lovely food growing and all the rest of it. The toilet issue is pardon the pun, it's fundamental.
And then, of course,
Jamie?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because Brett said before he wanted to say, like, what would you say at Madison Square Gardens in 2025? And then we kind of got lost in the conversation. So I don't know if it's relevant to go back there to do that. But I was really interested about, do you know what I mean, Brett? You said, so say we're in 2025 and the party is starting. And what do we say? So I was very excited to answer this question. So I said, because I studied broadcast journalism a long, long time ago. And so I wrote something down. So I said, good evening, I'm coming to you live from Madison Square Gardens. I'm Jamie Queen on the WBM Network, the world beyond money. Oh, yes, 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 we've realized it. We've remembered it's 2025 and it's done, like something like that. And I've got more notes and stuff, but wouldn't that be fun? Because I thought you asked for that earlier, but we kind of got on a tangent.
And now over to you, Peter, with the sports report. Thank you, Jamie. Today in sports, everyone plays cooperative games with each other and just basks in the beauty of our recovered natural settings. Over to you in the weather.
Well, it's a beautiful day. It's 25 degrees Celsius and we're just living life. We got robots like cleaning up our shit. No, that's not true. We decided to get rid of AI and we decided to say fuck the whole thing because you know what? We can clean up our shit ourselves. Fuck AI. We're the world beyond money and we are the future. We are the beginning and we remembered who we are. We clean up our shit. We don't need. Well, robots can be handy, but not in a computer chip in our arm. Back to you.
And now over to the climate desk. What a miracle, folks. After thinking it was impossible, the Arctic is actually stopped heating up and is heading in the other direction and beginning to cool down, thanks in large part to solar radiation management, a program that was sparked in the early 2020s and has just really revolutionized the weather patterns and the flow, the jet stream. And we are just on our way to cooling the Arctic and settling in to some weather that we can count on being somewhat stable in the near future for our children and grandchildren. Whoosh, looks like we may have dodged that bullet, Jamie.
Well, it sure does, Jammin. I think the most important thing that we're doing here today is just jamming. But today we're actually celebrating. We've got a whole list of a lineup of incredible artists, we are celebrating the world without money. It's 2025. It took us a long way to get here. Remember that time when we had to wear masks? Control the authority?
Yeah.
Good thing that didn't last too long. It was what, a year?
Yep, just about a year. And we realized we don't need big stars to hold down these shows anymore. We invite everyone to share their creativity as part of the show. And Fui, do you realize they used to have shows where just one person sang for 3 hours? How silly was it?
Jammin, I used to think I needed to get an agent to be a star, and now I realize you and me can be stars. We're hosting the show. Can you believe this?
And now to the cosmology section of the newscast. Brian. Oh, Brian, yes. We're all stardust. That we somehow forgot that we're the infinite magic of the universe that burst into existence and formed itself into these elements and galaxies and stars. And we are actually stars that are starring in our own little star show. And we just somehow landed on these rocks, and then there was water and dirt, and that made mud, and somehow the mud crawled out and learned to eat the sun, and here we are thinking that we're thinking. Back to you.
Well, thanks, Jammin. I think what we're talking about here is what we're remembering who we are. It's a very, very, very huge awakening, a very huge remembering. It is the birth of the new earth, and it is finally in culmination in this event tonight where we celebrate across the planetary sphere. We have remembered the divinity of who we are, what we are, and that we are each other, and we're going to celebrate our other selves and our divinity and our oneness in place from the generations of separateness. And so,
amen.
Back to you.
Over to Ray in the arts department. Ray, come in, Ray. Earth to Ray in the arts department. Ray, you've been on this broadcast for years. You know you have to turn on your microphone.
Yeah, on? Yes?
You're on, Ray.
I'm assuming that you're prompting me for what I was typing in the chat. I'll reread it.
Well,
it actually started with sports. Can I do both of them?
Yeah.
Yes, the mic is yours, sir.
In sports after the break, stadium footprints are deemed unsustainable, and the elite athletes are complaining about this world without money. Meanwhile, an explosion of interest in Little League Baseball. But first in our arts program. Years after American Idol's last program, the average person is allowed to sing out loud without someone criticizing them as pitchy or cabaret. Over to you, Jamin.
Well, thank you, Ray. I'm just so delighted that the ideas are flowing here. And it doesn't matter who's speaking. We just pop it around, and it's just like kids popping a ball around the room in kindergarten. What could be more fun? Over to whoever's next. And I know So has her hand raised. So.
Yeah, the other day I was watching a video of Miley Cyrus with some musicians, and she was singing Man of Sorrows. It was really good. But down there in the audience, it was supposed to be some kind of tribute to George Clooney. It was ridiculous. They were all sitting at tables wearing formal outfits, and you just realized it was so wrong. He should have been in the middle, down there, off the stage. She should have been in the middle and with everybody dancing around. It was just so extreme, the level of formality and the real, you know, she was really giving it some on stage. And it was just mad. It just like struck me as utter.
Let's not forget the World Beyond Money celebrations are happening all over the planet currently. Let's head out to Jamin in South America, where he's reporting from the big stadium. Jamin, what's going on down there?
Oh my goodness, it's incredible. I mean, the queue for volunteers wanting to help deliver food to the fans watching the game, and the players and the refs and all the other photographers, the queue is just wrapping around the stadium. I wish we could kind of let them all in, but if we did, people wouldn't be able to see the game because there'd be so many what they used to call vendors, right, walking around. And it's
vendors. There's another one of those old words. Vendors.
And now they're called splendors because they're living the splendid wonderland of abundant food for all, and they're just sharing and, you know, humming along or singing along, and everyone's just all smiles. And then even the cleanup is just so much fun. Then we do let a lot more people in for the cleanup because then there's no game to obstruct. And you should see how fast we clean it up. And then we have and then that's when we sit down and eat afterwards and have just a nice feast and singing and sharing. And we talk about how we might do it better next time, right? And it's just a great share-a-thon. And then we have a nice dance at the end because they let us dance around the stadium and use the sound system and all that. I mean, who would have thunk? It's like free party. It's like do 15 minutes of work, you know, wash up, get a free meal, and then party and dance and great stuff on the big screen. Sometimes we have movie night, you know, and sometimes we have lectures and things like that. And so it's just like this radical repurposing of stuff, right? Now that we get rid of this shackles of money, the constraints of tokenized transactions, it's like, how complicated can you get? Why have one token? Why not have 2,700 that all of them have to be present in order for anything to happen, right? I mean, it's just the most ridiculous artificial constraint if we just do what's right. So that's what we're discovering here in South America. Viva Sudamerica, Gubale, and back to you all.
Well, speaking of old words and splendor, isn't it wonderful that the people supporting the cleanups at Madison Square Garden don't have to go to work tomorrow? So really, there's no pressure. There's no time constraints. They simply can just stay up all night if they wish, go home, have some rest, and hang out the next day. It's important for everyone to remember that most of us aren't going back to work as we used to know it. So there's nothing else to do but have a good time and figure out how you can best be of service to your own evolution and to the planet's health.
Yes.
This is the party we're having.
And the cleanup folks bring their family in, and the kids are running around the bases. And little by little, they're noticing it takes less and less time to clean up because what do you think? People actually clean up for themselves. What a novel idea that became as we realized we could all take care of each other and take care of ourselves at the same time. Over to you in politics.
Well, in politics, people are wondering whatever happened to this term jobless, right? And, you know, and just as there's a queue around the stadium for people wanting to help out with this distribution of food, there are virtual queues around the engineering firms, marketing firms, education content creation firms. And so it's like, you got to work 15 hours this week? Who did you have to pay off? It's like a lot of this work is coveted. You know, I always wanted to learn how to drive a tractor. Well, now's your chance. Oh my goodness, you'll train me for free. And then whenever we have a problem, like a hard problem that we used to pay an engineering firm to solve, now we just throw it at the collective intelligence and it rapidly gets channeled to the right area of the network where a conversation is formed around it. And they might chunk it out into 173 different parts and then roll them up in the end once they're all solved. And so it's just like work becomes fun. And it's just like everyone just volunteers for whatever's most exciting for them. And there's always the network of conversations, partly to help you find those opportunities that will most fulfill you. and partly to co-create them. Back to y'all. Thank you.
You've been listening to WVM, World Without Money. Now we give it to you.
I don't know whether it's I don't know whether it's true in America, but the word job is not a good word. You know, it's just horrible. It lands like a thud. And we use it as a shit. That's what we say, a big job. Have you got that expression in America? In England, we call having a shit having a big job. True, I'm telling the truth. I'm not making this up. So the word job, that needs decolonizing. It's a bad word. It was never any, oh, I've got a job doing this. Oh, I've got a job doing that. It means drudgery. It's not a good word.
Coming up next, get off the damn TV and get outside and play. We are going off the air.
The internet will be down for the next 8 hours. and you know what? Why not? Look, if everything is running, if everything's working, you know, we can take a vacation from technology. I don't know. That's kind of a wild concept, especially considering the collective intelligence that will be needed to do things like fight fires in the moment, right? Get kids out of the building in the moment, right? What if there were the collective intelligence that says, look, if you take the fire escape exit to the south instead of the normal stairway, you gain 3 extra minutes, which is plenty of time for you to go pick up a kid. Of the 7 kids that Mrs. Jones has, you pick up 1, other neighbors are picking up the others, and everyone gets out of the building, rather than you just darting out saying, screw you to everyone else, which is the default, right?
Jamin, when with the fire crisis in Australia, basically it was volunteers at the ready. It was pretty much huge amounts of volunteers, and it's probably the same in California when you have your fires, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the collective intelligence coordinates all those volunteers. So anyway, I was just saying the collective intelligence probably needs to be turned on. The network of conversations probably needs to be on all the time. And people can just self-regulate.
When you were describing that, it's like Neo in the Matrix, right? Being told which way to turn and when to duck and
exactly. No, and that's exactly what we're going to have. And whether it's a hybrid of AI or humans or both, or, you know, back and forth or whatever, right? And Jamie says no AI. Okay, I'm sorry, no AI. But, you know, so communication technologies powered by human intelligence as opposed to AI. So you see, I'm very thankful to Zoom, and there may actually be some AI built into this. It does a pretty good job of buffering and things like that. But that's just speculation. But I think, Jamie, your larger point is what is very well taken, and I share the point that, you know, let's not farm out our thinking capabilities to machines. Let's do our own thinking, but let's do it collectively, just like we're doing here, which A, makes it fun, B, makes it sexy, thank you so, and C, is vastly more efficient and effective at finding the right solutions, whether it's to the food problem, the sewage problem, the clean up the oceans problem, or the refreeze the Arctic. And So has her hand raised. Back to you, So.
Sorry.
So
no, that was a mistake. Sorry, I didn't put my hand up.
It's you, my angel. Go ahead.
Oh no, so didn't mean to speak, and so she's passing it to you, Jamie.
Oh, so, I don't know what to say, but I just really feel like the technology within our own selves, the technology within our DNA, the technology within our heart sphere and our field is so much more incredible than any AI technology could ever give us. AI technology cannot give us healing because our healing capacities are already built within. I do not accept anything with AI except for convenience, perhaps, you know, with my phone or the way we connect social media. But in terms of our bodies, we are fields of consciousness, and do never put a chip in your body. Never. Like, we are incredible fucking beings of light, beings of our creation, beings of what we always were that we forgot. We have everything in ourselves to heal ourselves without pharmaceuticals, without any of it, without money, without anything. Everything we have is built into our DNA. If we can let go of the conditions of the layers of the teachings that we've been taught and our parents have been taught and their parents have been taught, we will reveal the essence of the life that we have. I mean, we are predispositioned to live a life of 900 years. We are predispositioned without this fear-based and this economy-based and this friction-based. If we can see each other as we are oneness instead of separateness, you are my other self. I look at you right now because you're the video on right now, and you are my other self. And we have difference of opinions, but actually not, not in this group. But we are the technology that is our DNA that is absolutely fucking natural to us. If we can tap into it, it's so natural, and we don't need AI. We don't need a computer chip. No one's gonna put a fucking thing up my nose for COVID to test me. We have the power to heal ourselves through our consciousness. And that's what we're doing. Also here with this alternative reality game with World Without Money, because when you imagine something, when you imagine it to the point, you make it real. You make it real because you imagine it to be real, and we are actually changing the world, or we're changing our perception of the world. It only comes from what we see. I am creating my reality, and it can be true for me. It can be true. Do you guys see what I'm saying? I'm getting a little excited, but I am the one to create my reality. So what I believe will be true. And if I want to play this game and imagine it, I can imagine it so well, because the world that I see right now is not very nice. I don't like it very much. So I'd rather go on a Friday night with you guys and imagine it, and sometimes write in my little notebook when I have ideas about the world beyond money and what I could do creatively to contribute. Imagining creates our reality. Thank you.
Yes. And it's all right now, right? It's this present moment mentality that also gets shifted away. We shift away from the past future game, and we come into the presence of right now. Is the only time you can use that imagination to run your creative energy through your body and out through your words and your song and your dance and your action and your movement and your love, and we become more present, and that's it. Your hands come together, because now they aren't in the past or future anymore, right? Come on. That they're present. They're now, in the now. And yay, when we do now enough, there's applause, right? And I just put into the chat room, because I don't know which of you are familiar with another program that I'm up to, which is launching a hand signal to help us remember all this. that's called the unity sign. It takes the old two-finger peace sign, which originally was Winston Churchill, V for victory, and then became, hey, let's not fight, the peace movement. And now it stands for, we used to think we were separate from each other, from the planet, from our future. We are remembering that we're one. As we remember, we come to the heart. And from that heart-based unity consciousness, we know we're one thing, and we can act together peacefully on the planet. So the unity sign is peace in, peace out, right? Inner peace leads to outer peace. As I remember, I can act that way. I'm doing my best to remember, and now I'm doing my best to act that way right now, because that's the only time there is. Aho.
Let's end the World Beyond Money segment with those of us on camera. Peace in, peace out. I'm happy with that. Thank you, everybody, for joining this segment, for hanging out, and for bringing your light and your wisdom and your imaginations. Thank you for those who participated, and thanks, Christopher, for doing that, man. Thanks for everyone who's participated in the chat. I'm not sure if I'm going to be back the next few weeks. I'm going to finally go offline a little bit, I hope. I might pop in and out, but I'm going to either see if Marina wants to host these calls, or Jamie. Marina, you and Jamie, or Jamin, if you guys want to keep the slot and just use it for this related conversation, you're like, I'm more than happy to have you do that, but I probably won't be. I might be, but I might not be. So
now we're gonna keep our lighters lit for you, Brett. We're gonna, as far as I'm concerned, and it's really up to the community to weigh in on this, but as far as I'm concerned, this topic is so hot, and Marina does such a great job of leading if she's willing, and Jamie, and really all of us, I think I think we totally got it. So that would be my vote. And that way, Brett, when you come back, you'll be like, all right, boys and girls, what have you cooked up while the teacher was away? And we'll
yeah. And have some fun. I mean, the improvisation at the end, Jamie, thanks for calling that in. Peter, thanks for keeping it going. Ray, thanks for participating in that. It's good to get out of the normal, just we're on Zoom, so we'll just all talk at each other or whatever. So that's what I liked about the exercise I was doing previously. So that was a lot of fun. We'll figure out how to bring more of that in next time, just because it's fun to hang out together and to do fun stuff together. So that's what it's all about. All right, take care, everyone.
Love
awesome
you, Brett.
Days and nights and mornings and afternoons.
Thanks for holding the space, brother.
Take care. Thank you. Yeah,
nice
thank
to be
you,
one
my
with you.
friends. You too. You too. Take care. Bye.
See you soon.
All right.
Hey, welcome back, Sophie. I'm going to pause the recording.